Welcome to Her Movement podcast, the show where we empower women entrepreneurs to build their own movement and create a bigger impact in the world. I'm your host, Preeti Singh Rajput, and I'm beyond excited to have you join me on this exhilarating journey. In each episode, we dive deep into the inspiring stories of remarkable women entrepreneurs. We'll explore their successes, their struggles, and the pivotal moments that shaped their journey. This podcast is a platform for real and raw conversations. Sharing our stories is empowering and instrumental in inspiring others to step into their greatness. From overcoming challenges to celebrating triumphs, our guests will take you on a transformative journey through their experiences. Join us as we delve into topics such as building a loyal community, creating your own movement with your own experience, growing your business with impact, and so much more. Our guests are trailblazers in their respective niches, and they are ready to share their wisdom, insights, and actionable tips that you can implement in your own business and life. Whether you are just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, Her Movement podcast is your go-to resource for inspiration, guidance, and real-world strategies that truly work. So grab a cup of coffee, tune in, and let's embark on this exciting journey together. Get ready to ignite your passion, elevate your mindset, and build your own movement. Hey, Christine, welcome to Her Movement podcast. Thank you so much for taking out your time. I'm so glad that we are finally having this conversation.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and so nice to meet you.
I have been following your work, and I see that you have your own movement that you're building. Tell us a little bit about what movement are you building with your business?
So I'm so passionate about women in business actually having a sustainable business that they can thrive with. So a lot of the time what can happen is the financial side of the business sort of gets left to the wayside. A lot of women in business are doing what they do, they love what they do, and they're focused on serving their clients, and yet the financial side is something that gets sort of left behind. And yet it's the most important thing for you to have sustainability. Otherwise, you are going to burn out. You are going to get to a point where you hate what you're doing and you'll end up giving up on it. And you'll end up just giving up on your dreams and going back and finding a job. And so getting the financial side of your business right is what I'm so passionate about. So that's the movement I'm creating, is financially abundant women in business that can continue to thrive and change the world.
Wow, amazing. And it's such a topic, when it comes to finances and women. There are just so many things that we, truly need to address on a deeper level, on a very deeper level. And Christine, to start with, I want you to, if you can just take us into your world, into your story, and take us through the journey of becoming the entrepreneur that you are today, so that we can derive that, inspiration from your story.
Amazing. So I love business. I've loved business right from a very young age. I come from a family of really hardworking business owners, and I basically was driven into different spaces within my journey, my career, to management and responsibility at that level. And so basically when I was in corporate, I was actually spent a lot of time in corporate helping like business development and sales. And there was a piece that happened where a lot of the women that I was working with a lot of business owners that are wanting to grow their business. And we were developing, as part of the corporate company, developed a strategy in order for them to implement. And what I found was that some women would take that strategy and run with it and do really well. And then other women, they wouldn't take it. They literally were stuck in procrastination and would hold themselves back. And I'd see them a month later and nothing has happened. And so I was like, what's happening? Like, what is the difference? Is it me? Like, is it the way that I'm delivering it? Am I not communicating it correctly? Like, what could I do differently to make it more impactful? And so I started to explore communication styles and understanding human behavior. And then I started to implement that and saw really great results. And then I found this thing called coaching and understanding the brain with neuroscience and got obsessed. And yeah, so then I started down that whole rabbit hole of personal development and really understanding our brain and how we work and how we function and what makes us tick. And then I started implementing everything that I was learning about mindset into the business development. And it made such a massive impact that I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I love doing. I just want to do this part. And so the corporate company I was working for got me to start training some of their sales teams and training some of their business development managers. And I loved that. But there was an element that was missing for me as a person, because I was like, I want to do this for myself. Like, I want to have my own business and I want to be able to thrive and make my own decisions. And so I stepped out of corporate into my own business, had all the challenges that come along with starting a business. It is not easy. Um, Throwing spaghetti at the wall, like trying everything, saying yes to everything, and trying every strategy under the sun. Even when I did actually have a lot of business knowledge around it, it's so different when it's your own business.
Very different.
Yeah, and so I had came up with my own money challenges. So I hit some certain thresholds and blocks around money. And so as a mindset coach now that I work with women who are wanting to grow their businesses, I was working with clients that were coming up with similar challenges. And I was like, I need to navigate this for myself before I can teach it. And so I started exploring money mindset and started to really get really good at the financial side of my business, and started really educating myself in that space, getting as much advice from the right people, like all of that, and started implementing the money mindset stuff and saw massive results that I was like, everyone needs to know this. And then it just sort of catapulted on from that. And 5 years later, now I am very passionate about the sales side and the money mindset side of people's businesses, so they can feel super confident in their future and be able to confidently manage their money from a energetic side at the same time as a practical side.
That's so true, because it's not just about what you say in your head. It's more about the practical stuff that we do every single day when money is concerned. And Christine, your story is so much like me. I just realized that everything that you were talking about, I come from a background which is like, I've seen so many businesses. My father was in business, and I've seen so many businesses since my childhood. I worked in corporate for 12 long years before I started my business. And I started my business 5 years ago. It was in 2018 that I started my business. So there is just so much common. Yeah. And, while I was working in corporate, the same thing happened to me. Every time I'll go and, sit down with the clients and talk business and strategies. And every time my company will have great results because of that, I'll be like, why am I not doing it for myself? Yeah, that you keep talking to in your head that, I should be doing it for myself. But when you get in your business, it's a completely different ballgame. I mean, I thought that I was amazing when I was in corporate. But when I came into my business, there was just so many things. 2018, I was in, cloud nine. I was like, I have got it, because I had clients in the beginning and everything. And 2019 was so hard for me. And I realized that there were just so many things, like, the mindset, the management, the operations, the team. There was just so many things that I needed to, be good at. And money, definitely, managing finances was the major part of it. Yeah, when you're talking about it, I just feel like, we all should be aware that this is going to be something that we all need to learn before we think about scaling our business or growing our business. So let me know more around that. I want to learn. I make notes every time my guests come. So how did you, overcome all those challenges when you were starting up?
Well, I think it's one of those things of recognizing that it is a personal development journey. Like, your business is activating so much within you that it brings up all your fears to the surface. It brings up all your weaknesses. It challenges you in ways that you've never been challenged before. And so I think that starting firstly with a growth mindset and embracing the growth, embracing the challenges, recognizing that obstacles are actually part of the journey, and it's actually how you learn and grow. And I feel like sometimes business owners come into business and they're great at what they do, and they kind of have this expectation where they should be great at everything else. But if you've never been taught marketing, if you've never studied sales, if you've never understood the finances and your personal finances, how do you expect yourself to be amazing at that side of the business as well as you're, taking the next step? And there's always like that next level fear that keeps playing up. It just challenges you. And that's where like the self-sabotage starts to kick in, right? We get challenged, we're stepping outside of our comfort zone, and our brain wants to keep us as safe as possible. And the safest place to be is in your comfort zone.
In your work, I have seen that you keep talking about self-sabotage and how we ourselves, end up stopping from, experiencing that success in our business. And I really want you to go deeper into it, Christine, because I know I've been there. I can see that in my clients. So please help us with that.
Yeah, so self-sabotage is one of those things that I think when it comes to the way that we perceive our behaviors, if we're open and aware of recognizing where we're limiting ourselves, we can activate and or understand our self-sabotaging behaviors. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in thinking that we should know it all, or it should be easy, it should be different, or we judge ourselves for having challenges, that we don't see that challenge for what it absolutely can be. Any self-sabotaging behavior is an opportunity for growth. So if we embrace it, so okay, let me give you an example. Lots of different self-sabotaging behaviors I see with women in business are things like undercharging, over servicing, over delivering, prolonged procrastination, vagueness, not actually being clear on what it is that it wants, not setting goals, overthinking, imposter syndrome, sabotaging relationships, not promoting yourself. Like there's so many. I've actually written a book. There's like 15 that I dive into in my book, and it's not published yet, but it's coming. And so once we recognize some of those self-sabotaging behaviors of like which ones do, we want to uncover why. We want to actually explore why, because through that, by actually embracing and having awareness around that behavior, we can create success because it's on the other side of that. It's recognizing that that behavior is not a bad thing. It's just where we need to grow, right? So if we're willing to embrace it, open it up, and really look at the underlying reason why we do that behavior, you're more likely to move through it. So it could be a past wound that's being triggered. It could be your belief systems that are holding you back. It could be some fears. So there's a lot of fear that causes a lot of self-sabotaging behavior, especially with money, because we have such programming with money from our childhood that has been passed down through generations and generations, that we hold on to these belief systems, our money story. And what our identity does, what our brain does, is it wants to keep us safe. And it does that by looking for certainty and where we have evidence and proof to feel safe. And so the only way it finds certainty is by looking at the past. And so if we've never achieved next level of wealth, if we've never had a great relationship with money, if we've never been able to charge what we're worth, then we're pushing against something that's so unknown that the brain goes, that's dangerous. I don't think you should move towards that. And so it kicks in these self-sabotaging behaviors to cause us to play small, to play safe, right? So to keep us in that comfort zone so then we don't get into this place where it could be dangerous. And so our brain's always protecting us every single step of the way. And I think that if we learn to actually understand our programming, be aware of our self-sabotaging behaviors, and allow us to be, well, to actually utilize our brain for good, because when it's unattended and when we don't stay aware, it just runs off. Like it literally runs off like a little toddler and catastrophizes, it gets stuck in drama or spirals, like has a little meltdown, like all of that. And we judge ourselves for it, right? Instead of actually going, what's the programming that's causing this? How can I learn to train my mind to believe certain things, to have a pattern of behavior, like to have habits? Like we can absolutely train our brains to be a useful tool that's going to serve us. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it, because when you do start to do that, everything changes because the behavior is no longer required. You're able to change your own reality because you're stepping towards something instead of getting stuck in the fear of the past.
So, Christine, while you were, telling me all about this, I realized that you said you need to be open and aware. And when you said that, I think I have a behavior where I feel like, I don't want to be too salesy with my offers and all. So if I have that, help me. How can I help myself with that behavior of mine?
So, where did the story come from that sales is salesy?
I think it comes from me being on the social media and seeing other people making vague claims about make these many $1,000s, this and that, and screenshots and all of those things. I just feel like I don't feel very comfortable when I see them. I feel like, success shouldn't be defined on the basis of a few $1,000s. It goes way deeper than that. And when we talk in vague terms, and claim something which somebody is not able to achieve, they start judging themselves. And that's not a good place. As a coach, we shouldn't put them in that situation where they judge themselves that, okay, everybody's making $10,000 in 30 days. I'm not making, so there is something wrong with me. So I just feel like, that thought that I have comes from there.
And so there's two sides to this. One, we've got to look at the triggers that are causing you to feel that, right? So the story that you're telling yourself, that do you think that you have to go and do that in order for me to be successful?
To be successful. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like, as a, yeah, as a coach, I don't want to guide my clients or my prospect to that path. I feel like, it's more about coming out in a way where, I tell them that it's a lot of work, and it's not an overnight success, and 30-day $10,000 is not a thing. I feel like, you really need a few months time to be able to establish yourself in a business, and that's the real truth. So if I have to tell someone, yeah, so I do sabotage myself.
Having that time, that short time frame, and expecting or starting a business, and or even like hitting six figures in 6 months, like I think is the unicorn, right? And I think that we've got to look at what are we telling ourselves about ourselves when we're looking at that, because that trigger is a really good indicator of the story that we're telling ourselves. It's not possible for me, right? Like, I don't want to be that salesy. I don't want to be that, I don't want to show up in that way. That's totally okay. You don't have to. A person who understands a sales process is actually less about presenting and promoting and more about inviting. Okay. So if we learn that, or if you've had a past experience that was actually a really enjoyable sales process, letting that be your new story, that you can actually have an incredible sales process where you get invited into something, it solves the problem you're experiencing, it ticks all the boxes for you, and you're excited to spend your money there. You're going to be so much more invested in that outcome because you want to be there, right? So there's that element. But I also think we've got to be kind to ourselves in the way of, we do need to find a comfortable, authentic way of promoting ourselves, because no one else is going to understand your value unless you communicate it. No one else is going to search for your business unless you are there available to them, right? Being top of mind. And so finding a really confident way that feels good for you to promote yourself is really key. And I think like the other key piece that I think gets missed a lot is that we look at that as sales. That's actually like the promoting of like, you should hit this money and you should do this. It's actually not a sales process, right? They're using social proof, or they're using a goal that represents the way that money gets talked about in the industry. And I absolutely agree with you. It's not about the dollars. It's actually about what the money will give you. And 5-figure months is absolutely possible. And I have a challenge coming up literally talking about this, because I believe that it's possible for many, many service-based businesses. And it's about releasing the trigger that that number is giving you.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. And using that trigger as my superpower.
Yeah. So changing that and looking within and going, okay, so what is it about that I'm telling myself? And how can I flip it and look at that as an opportunity, as the universe telling me that that's what's possible?
Wow. So if that kind of a marketing triggers me, I can use that trigger to rewire and reprogram the things that I'm doing in my business. Am I right?
Yeah. Turn it back around and ask yourself, well, I don't like what they're doing, but what could I do in order to promote myself? Because there is other parts of it as well. Like, there's maybe you recognize their confidence, or maybe you like the way that they speak to their case study, or maybe you like how they are consistent. Like, there might be something else underlying it. So looking at it of going, okay, what parts can I take that are for me? And what parts can I recognize that people have different values? So some people value that. Some people really value the financial number, and they want to work towards that. I am so passionate about actually reducing those triggers, because anybody that is sitting out there and has an online business that thinks that 10K a month is impossible, they're lying to themselves. It's absolutely possible. There's proof in the world that exists. Definitely possible. Probably not possible if you started your business
Yeah,
yesterday,
right, right. Yeah.
right? Yeah. So I think it's just finding like your way of inviting more people into your business and changing the story that you have around sales, because by thinking you don't want to be salesy or sleazy, it's probably causing hesitation to promote yourself. And that's the sabotaging behavior that will impact your growth.
I'm really sure that this particular example that I just gave you and you just cleared all of that in my mind, it's going to help a lot of people in the audience. We all, a lot of us, we feel that way, that we don't want to be salesy, we don't want to be judged. Yeah.
That's always my answer. Like, don't, it doesn't work. And the missing piece is the permission piece, that because people see other people promoting like that online, they think that that's what they should do, when there are many other ways to actually sell. And when you have permission, so what I mean by this is that if you were seeing that from a place of, I really like this person, she's actually already delivered heaps of value to me and I love her, like everything she puts out is great. I love her energy. I love learning from her. I have the problem that she's talking about solving. Then you may be attracted to that and then want to be a part of that invitation. So maybe there's just some missing pieces, and that's okay, right? It's just like, let it go. And that would be more permission based, right? Because if she's inviting you, like if this is something you're experiencing and you want this solution in this way, then it's welcomed, right? Whereas I think sometimes the sales process can miss that, and people don't do the beginning of getting to know you as the customer, caring about you, and inviting you to see if you're open to the solution, because then you're less likely to be like, because it's like if you're walking around at a shopping center and someone's trying to sell something to you, you know what I mean? Like they're standing in the middle of the corner and they're shoving things in your hands. I don't want it. Like, but if they got to know me and then what they were offering, they started uncovering whether I had the problem that this was the solution to, I'd be more open to it because there's permission. And so even just asking, like, would you like an offer? Would you like a solution to this problem?
Wow. So every time we have a trigger, we need to be aware of that trigger and think in terms of not judging somebody or criticizing someone, from the point of view why that trigger is happening with me, and then with the awareness try to understand how we can turn it around for ourselves. Yeah. Awesome. I'm just loving it.
So good. A lot of those comparison triggers, like I would call them a comparison trigger, the reason why, like, and there's so many, right? There are so many. And I think that that's the thing, is like, we need to learn to compare intelligently instead of letting our brain be the toddler and blame.
That's awesome. Compare intelligently.
Yeah. And so how we do that, instead of letting our brain go down the spiral of, oh, well, she's got that, that means I can't have it. She's promoting in this way and she shouldn't, like getting triggered by it, or going, well, she already offers what I offer, so I shouldn't offer what I offer. Like any type of comparison, we want to recognize that it's not got nothing to do with them. It's what is happening within you. So am I triggered by it because I actually want her confidence, or I see that she's consistent and I want that, or I'm triggered because I see that she values this and it's completely opposite to my value, right? When you can see someone that's like out of integrity and your value is integrity, that triggers you, right? So it's okay to have difference. We need difference in the world. And so there's going to be people out there, sometimes even competition comparison, where it's like, oh my God, she's going to take my clients, or because she's earning this amount of money, it means I can't. Like, I like to turn it around of like the universe showing you what's possible, for one, and also recognizing that I get to intelligently ask myself, what is she doing that I want to be doing that I'm actually not embodying? And what is she doing behind the scenes that maybe I'm not privy to just yet? So I would ask myself, like, if she's got this result that I want, what is she doing to get that? Like, I want to know behind the scenes, like, is she doing other strategies that maybe I'm not seeing? And so it looks like, because we get the highlight reel, right? We see one piece and then we think that this was the only way that they got that outcome, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes of their business. And I think that's the hardest thing, is that we think, and social media can be so convoluted because it shows you these things that you don't even know if it's even true. So that's why I'm like always like, look for yourself of like, okay, what can I learn from this? Can I compare intelligently, learn from this person, recognize that I want to be as confident as her? I can see how experienced she is, and I really want to be that confident in speaking the way that she speaks or whatever it might be. And then work on that for yourself, because there's something you're seeing within her that you want and you already have within yourself, but maybe you haven't embodied.
Yeah, yeah, so true, so true. And you also talk about money mindset hacks and the way you teach, your all of your client for the financial stability. How can you explain me around that? Because as important it is for us to make money in our business, it's very important for us to understand the financial stability as well. So how do you train your clients around financial stability using the mindset hacks?
Yeah. So there are key pieces to this that it's a massive topic, like to begin with, it's a massive topic. I run a 4-month mastermind on this, so it takes time to fully embody. And to begin with, like the first piece is actually looking at your money story and starting to uncover what's your current programming with money. So, what do you believe about money? What's been your experience with money? What's your upbringing around money? How did your parents talk around money when you were a kid or not talk about it? And what has that caused you to feel around money? So, when we have associations around money, maybe talking about money meant stress, as when you were a kid, maybe you saw your parents fight around money and that created a lot of stress. So your associations with money is stress, right? Or you might have a belief system of you have to work hard to earn money, and then that drives your behavior and you end up just pushing and pushing and pushing instead of actually really articulating what works and what doesn't work. And so we start there. We look at the mindset piece. What are the belief systems, the emotional associations? What's our self-sabotaging behaviors around money as well, so we can start to explore what's currently happening. Then we need to identify where we want to be, so then we can figure out what the gap is. And so there's a blend of what I do, from removing belief systems, changing our relationship with money, so our interactions with it, with every single day we're interacting with money. It's starting to actually embed a new belief system around money being an abundant resource that we have access to, and it's actually how we see it and how we utilize it as a tool to serve our business and the growth of our business and our lifestyle. And we start to change our associations with money. It becomes less stressful. It's not about control. It's not about power. It's literally a resource that we get to utilize to serve the health of our life. And so once we are in that space of really recognizing that energy, we can then work on the energetic side, which is really fun, right? We want to work on the manifestation. We want to work on our energy thresholds. And then we dive into the management side, right? The practicalities of money, because a lot of the time it's like there's inconsistent income happening, which could be actually more of a sales problem than a money problem. It could be profitability issue. It could be like you're not charging what you're worth, and so there's a lot of lack of profitability in your business. It's your everyday management and your cash flow. Like there's a whole piece, that the practical side that has to come into play as well. And that's why I'm so passionate about all 4 of those parts, because we need to work on all 4 in order to have a really good relationship with money. And I think the other thing that I love about it is that it's the catalyst for change in so many different areas, because money is like the foundation of our life. It's not just that, but the money triggers other things about ourselves. And when we work on that, we change other areas of our life. So it could be that we doubted ourselves, we had a low self-esteem. It could be that we didn't value the work that we're doing. And so we really need to actually dive into learning to communicate our value and believe in our own value. It's in our relationships, right? Like it ties into so many different areas of your business. Like,
Yeah, it's like everywhere. If you want to make any change or any impact in the society that you live in, or in fact the relationships, your family members, anything that you want to do, you need money for that. So, and often we have so many negative, notions attached to it while we are growing up, and the truth is that this is the way this world operates, and we need to have a really good relationship with it mentally to be able to embrace, and to be able to receive it as well.
and so many women that I work with have so much stress around money, or they avoid it altogether. They believe that they're not good with numbers, or they literally just want someone else to. And so if I can encourage more women to just move through a little bit of that fear, to learn and develop the skill to manage money better, their whole life changes, and the ripple effect that has on their family, their kids, like we're not passing that stuff down through next generations, and it starts to impact communities. Like women doing money better is going to be better for the world. So that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah, and I remember myself growing up in a family where there was just, my father was into businesses, like he had chain of businesses, and every time he will come back home, and the only thing he would say is that, money is nothing. It's just all around you. Just look here, money is there. Look there, money is there.
Oh my God,
Everywhere. Yeah, so he would just talk in those terms, and I feel like, I operate from that point where whatever my father told us, he would always say that, get up in the morning, do the job, whatever is required. And he's like, still he works 15 hours a day. And he would just tell me, money is something that's coming to you. You whether you think about it or you don't, it's just, coming from everywhere. And I still have that feeling.
Incredible thing to pass on to you.
Exactly, and now when you're talking, yeah, and when you're talking about it, and every time he's a big time in charity, and my mother will say, you shouldn't do that much of charity. 80% of your income shouldn't go in charity. Every time my mom will say that, and then my father will tell me that, this 80% is getting distributed amongst all of my children. It's going to come to my children one day. So that's the reason I'm doing it. And my mother will say, why are you so sure about it? I mean, how come you're so sure about it? And he's like, I know, this is how money works. And he'll be so much at ease with everything that he'll do. And I see that still, all of us, we feel about money that way. Like it's there. Like I don't ever stress on money. Because, and now when you are talking about, I go back in my story around money, and I feel like, oh God, that's what my father actually it's a gift that he has given me, and I didn't realize till this point. He will talk, Christine, so easily about money. This is his talk like every day.
Incredible to give you,
yeah,
because that's not the case for a lot of people. They're brought up in
and
so much
he will just
scarcity.
think about the idea. He will think about a new business idea, or he'll think about doing something, and then if my mother will say, where will the money come from, and he's like, it's coming to me. I just need to keep moving, and it's gonna, by the time I reach there, it'll be there. I know I'll just arrange something. It'll happen.
That's the energetics of trusting money, trusting that it'll always be there to support you, giving it a purpose. And that's acting as if, like, that's that manifestation piece of like, you've just got to act as if it's coming, right? Like, keep believing, and then the money will find you in some magical way that you just never thought was possible. I would even like challenge you on like, what would he think about that sales part that we just talked about?
He would be just, he would say, just you sell your way, Preeti. You sell your way. Money's gonna come. Oh God, it's so simple. Oh God, this conversation. I'm just gonna call my father after this. And thank him for all of that. Thank you, Dad. Oh God, really. And it all just reaffirms to me that we just need not to make it such a big deal.
100%. 100%. We give it way too much power. It's a resource, just the way we have water. Like, it's a resource. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Christine. Oh my God. I'm sure a lot of women who are listening to this podcast, they would have this moment right now that it's actually that simple. But there is another truth to what my father does, is that he wakes up at 7 and he sleeps at 9, and in between he's always working. So the simple thing that we have to understand is we need to put in action as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things I think gets lost in the spirituality space is, that's why I'm like, it's the 4 pieces. It's the mindset, it's the practicalities, it's the energetics, right? Like, it's the profitability piece. Like, we have to have all pieces, and there's action that plays into that. Like, you can't just do nothing. And that's the acting as if piece, is actually working towards something and giving money a piece, a purpose.
And Christine, I have also seen that sometimes we feel like when we talk about action, all right, the action part of attracting something into your life, then we associate, like there is this underlying tone that says that work hard, or you have to work, really hard in order to get that. Is that true? Or it could be a simple call probably that can change the game for you.
It's actually not that for everyone. So it might be sometimes, yes, absolutely. Some people have that belief system, and that's obviously been handed down, and they need to work through shifting that belief system because it's not true. Like sometimes it's, yes, you need to put in the work. Absolutely. I'm a firm believer of hard work. It's aligned work and work that's smart, not harder, right? We've got to learn to work smarter, not harder. Like this is the biggest thing that I'm always talking about because we can be taking action, but it could be purposeless action. It could be misaligned action. It could be just because someone else told you to do something doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. You've got to find that alignment within yourself and take the action towards your goals. And also check in and be like, is this getting me closer to where I want to be or further away? Right? It's not just take blind action. It's check in every step of the way. Is this getting me closer? What are the strategies that I put in place this month? Did it work? Did it not? And it does sometimes take time to get really good data back in your business too. Like if I was to relate it to business, you may need a good, like I always look at the 3-month journey of like a 90-day focus. You can usually get really good data from a strategy you've put in place. Whereas some people put a strategy in place once for a week and then go, oh, it didn't work for me. Of course not. It's of course not. Like it's not going to work for anyone for 1 week, right? So if you want to change the game, if you want to figure out what works for you, is you need to put those strategies in place for a period of time to get the data back to see what worked. And also like it helps you become that go-to person. Like if you're putting one strategy in place, if you're communicating one message for 90 days, people are going to know you for what it is that you're talking about. And I think that there's definitely a time space that happens there, but the action piece is always just checking back in and making sure, like, is it working? Because we could get so off track.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's more about understanding your triggers, comparing intelligently, your story and emotion around money, and then action. It's more around taking aligned action. And for that, we need goals, right? Awesome. Amazing. There's just so much of value. Anyone wants my notes? It's all here. And you also talk about imposter syndrome and how you help your clients to turn their imposter syndrome into their superpower. Which, that this is the piece that I'm waiting for since the conversation started. I went through your work and I was like, I really want to understand what it is, because most of the time we all talk about how to get rid of the imposter syndrome, this and that, but nobody talks about turning them into superpower. How do we do it, Christine?
Because this is the thing, like the imposter syndrome is literally a fear behavior. Like it's something that fear dialogue that's holding you back, causing you to play small. And you're right, like a lot of people do talk about like, how do we overcome it? How do we stop it? How do we prevent it? It's actually part of your journey. It's not going away. Every single human being experiences it. No matter what level of growth you're at, you're always going to come up against it. And so and it's the way I look at fear all in general, it's the relationship that you have with it. If you look at it as if it's a bad thing, then it stops you.
So it's more about the relationship.
Yeah. So I like to think of it like, when do you experience imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
It's usually when you're stepping outside your comfort zone and doing something you've never done before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The little inner dialogue kicks in and go, oh, they're going to figure out you're a fraud. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you really think this is a good idea? Like all of that language starts kicking in because your brain knows exactly what arsenal to use against you.
Right.
To keep you safe. So it's like you're stepping just outside the comfort zone and the imposter syndrome goes, oh, no, you might die. You should just come back.
Right.
To your safe zone. And so it's up to us as the person who controls our mind, right? Run away with us. It can actually be the choice between either stepping out and doing it anyway,
right,
or falling back into the comfort zone and just staying safe and doing the same thing you've always done, right? The only reason it's showing up is because it's something that's scary, it's the unknown, you've never done it before. Now, if we flip it and went, what if I asked you to do something this month that would trigger the imposter syndrome? And what if I asked you to do that every single month?
Inviting that, isn't it?
What would happen in your business if you stepped outside your comfort zone and did something that activated the imposter syndrome every single month?
All right. So activate it rather than trying to ignore it or not facing it.
Well, it's more like seek it out.
Yeah. Wow. That's gold.
Embrace it. Seek it out. It's your growth tool. Like it's actually going to grow you. If I asked you to find something next week that's going to activate the imposter syndrome for you, like imagine, like if I asked you to reach out to a really high-end celebrity for the podcast, what would happen? You'd be like, no. But if you did it every single week, you're guaranteed to get a yes. Yeah. It's the same. Like for anything in your business, and it's going to be individual for you depending on what your goals are. But if you literally looked at, okay, so what could I do next week that would activate the imposter syndrome? I'd be like, oh, that's big, right? It's scary. It's outside the comfort zone, but that's the only thing that's going to grow you. So if you seek it out, it becomes your superpower. Because if you're not experiencing it, if you haven't experienced it in the last month, it's probably because you just didn't do anything that grew you, didn't challenge you. If you have signed up for a business journey and creating a movement, you are going to be challenged. You are signing up for a personal development challenge, right? It's going to grow you. So if you started seeking it out, you will grow faster than if you just keep doing the same thing day in, day out.
And this is the first time somebody is telling me about imposter syndrome in this way, where I can actually gamify this whole concept of imposter syndrome and play around with it. I'm so in.
That's it. Let it serve you, right? And you can have a conversation with it. So it pops up in your head and it's like, oh, are you people are going to find out you don't know what you're talking about, or you could be like, let them find out.
Exactly. Christine, I don't know if you will listen to this podcast, and you will see that I have talked about it quite often with every guest that has come. I have this feeling inside that I don't look good on cameras. I don't, and I'm from India, so I don't really have that English, accent, and I would judge myself that, okay, I don't really talk like everybody else talks, and things like that, and it kept me behind the scenes in my business for last 5 years until my son came and told me that, Mama, if this is something that you want to do, just go ahead and do it. Why are you thinking so much? And I was like, this little boy has actually told me.
But like you're different. So let that actually be a good thing. Like that's your uniqueness rather than like who wants to be like everybody else?
I'm going to be that weird woman with a weird accent and known for it.
It's not weird at all. It's not weird at all. We all know people with an Indian accent. Like I wouldn't worry about it.
So, I started thinking differently around this. Like, okay, English isn't my first language, but I still speak decently. So it's something that I'm going to appreciate about myself rather than judging myself around it. And, so things like that, they shifted in me, last few months. And I see what you're talking about here, Christine. I can truly see. And why I'm so excited while talking to you is because I know what you're telling is actually gold. And that's what matters. Trying to just step out of your comfort zone and doing that shit that you've been holding for so long, no matter how you feel inside.
Because I mean, what's the other alternative? You just keep doing the same thing you've always done. That gets pretty boring pretty quickly. And you actually then end up being so hard on yourself because you're not doing anything. Because as a human being, you want to progress, you want to be challenged, you want to grow. So getting to choose, because the challenges are going to come anyway. So you may as well choose them and move towards them.
Whether you face the fear and level up, or you be here and keep feeling that sinking feeling inside. It's hard anyway, so better choose this one.
Let fear run. Like fear will literally run you. And that's not what's going to serve you. And so if you sit there and let fear overrun every single thing, so anytime it gets hard, you're like, it's too hard, I'm just going to stay in the same place. How long before that is not enough, right? How long before you get to a point where you don't believe in yourself anymore? Like this is why challenges are good, because it challenges you to change the way that you think about your capacity, your capability, changes what you believe about yourself. Because if you're able to do hard things, you're able to overcome anything.
And Christine, when we really, take that call and we decide that, okay, I'm going to face it. I'm going to, activate and invite this imposter syndrome, and I'm going to experience it and thrive in it. Now, still, I think, a lot of us would feel like, where to get that confidence from. How will you help us with that?
Confidence only comes after the fact. You have to do the action to become confident. So forget confidence. You want to rely on courage. You want to tap into some courage and take the action anyway.
So everyone listening to this podcast, confidence comes later. Your action, your courage comes first, and doing things even if you are fearful, right?
100%. 100%. Because so many of us think that it should be easy or that we shouldn't be uncomfortable. So we try to avoid being uncomfortable at any cost, right? Whereas, what if you actually flipped it on its head and went, I'm actually uncomfortable when I'm comfortable? It's not supposed to be easy. Like, stop telling yourself it's supposed to be easy or that it should be, you should feel confident or you'll feel ready. Like, you will never feel bloody ready. You've got to take the action, and that's that change in the relationship with fear and not letting it mean such a bad thing. Like, it's actually a good thing because it's something that's going to cause you to do something outside your comfort zone. And so, stretching your muscle with doing things even when you're scared is the best way to develop that habit, right? Tap into that courage, take the action anyway, and don't let fear take the wheel.
Wow. And Christine, does it get better over the time? Like if we invite and activate this fear and discomfort and still take action, does it get better over the time? Because I really want my audience to understand that it's not going to last for life.
Well, fear is always going to be there. Fear is always going to be there. It's your relationship with it that makes the difference, your response to it. So I think rather than worrying about that it's going to last forever, it gets easier because the habit
We are
becomes part
building
of
the
your identity.
habit. Yeah.
When big things happen, like there'll be little fears, right? You take those steps and you become better at overcoming fear as you go. There are still going to be times where fear is activated for you. There's still going to be times like if you stand out in front of 100,000 people, it's natural. It's natural as a human being in a scenario like that that your evolutionary fears are going to be activated from fear of rejection, fear of public speaking, like all of that. That's natural. But it's about how you respond to it. If you choose to let it override you and then play small, or you've built a habit that you're like, you get used to the feeling, you know the feeling. You're like, yep, that's right. Okay, fear. I know you're here. I know you're here to protect me, but we're doing this anyway.
Yeah, and we're fine.
I'm getting up on that stage and I'm going to speak and it's going to be great. So it's that relationship and the way that you talk to yourself.
Yeah, and I think, over the time when we keep facing our fears, we'll get better at communicating with it. I'm so happy that we had this conversation, Christine. And I also know that after listening to this conversation, a lot of women would really love to work with you. So, where can they find you if they really want to work and go deeper into it?
Sure. So I have a couple of different programs and I also work one-on-one with clients. So the best place is to find me on Instagram. I hang out there the most, and on TikTok. So if you find me on Instagram, you'll find me at Christine Corcoran Coach. And I would just love to hear from you. So send me a DM, let me know that you listened and what you took away from this. And I'm more than happy to have a chat. And then you'll find there in my bio all the links to everything from my podcast to my programs, my masterminds, my one-on-one coaching.
And do you have a group program, Christine, or you provide one-on-one coaching services? How does it work?
So I have a blend of a mastermind and a group program. So I help women be able to, I have two different level masterminds, one for women who are wanting to earn 10K months and wanting to scale to that. And then I have a mastermind for women who are earning over six figures and wanting to take things to the next level there. So I have two different masterminds, which are a blend of program, one-on-one coaching and group coaching, and that support over a period of time. And then I also have one-on-one journeys with clients as well.
And I'll give all the details about your program in the description of this podcast as well. So whosoever is looking for it can, just click the link and go and reach out to you. This has been so amazing, Christine. Thank you so much for taking out your time. But before we wind up, I would like if you can give 3 tips to my audience, 3 quick tips to shift from where they are to an abundance mindset. 3 quick tips, whatever you think it's the, the starting point. And if they can do it, they can break their own barriers and thrive.
So I think the first one would be recognize where things feel hard or you're telling yourself that it's too hard to change, and ask yourself, what do you need to learn in order for this to be easy? Because it's often a learning curve. Like there's a knowledge piece that comes into play with your money and your money mindset, right? So if you've never looked at it, or same with sales, like if you've never looked at it or learnt it, then it's a skill that you actually need to learn. So asking yourself, what do I need to learn here in order for it to be easy? Secondly, is start to look for the outliers of abundance. It's probably my first place I would start, is look for the abundance that already exists in your world. There is an abundance, and I just mean like not even focusing on money yet. Focus on the abundance of nature. Focus on the abundance of what's available to you, from everything from your electricity, your Wi-Fi, the food in your fridge, right? Focus on the abundance of people and the support that you have, or sometimes it's just noticing the beauty in the world. So finding to pay attention to the abundance and how it's already flowing to you in other places. So it can be flowing to you from people offering support or gifts, or it could come through people's time, like it could come through compliments, right? There's so many different ways that abundance comes to us, and when we pay attention to that, we then attract more. If we can find gratitude for what's already there, we attract more. And then I would probably start to look at your belief systems, would probably be the next piece of like questioning your belief system. Why do I believe that? So I have to work hard for money? Who said that? Why do I believe it? Whose voice is that in my head? Right? So we start to question it and ask ourselves, is that even true? Do I know without a shadow of a doubt that that's true? And pretty much every single belief system has an opposite. So it's like in anything in science, right? They can often prove the opposite to be true as well. And it's the same. So we're going to question those belief systems, because if they're not serving you, we want to start to adopt belief systems that will serve you. So if you have a belief system that's impacting your behavior and you don't like the outcome it's creating, you want to figure out why. Why do I believe that? Where's that come from? What else could I believe instead? And then see where that takes you.
My audience is going to love it because everything we talked about, it's so practical and so simple. It might not be easy because we go through our own journey of evolution and growth. But it's simple if we just follow these few things that we talked about here in this podcast. Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you. Just a few. And thank you so much, Christine, for taking out the time. I so appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll see you in your bootcamp that's coming up next week, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, 3 days to 10K.
I'll see you inside. Yeah.